Okay, now we're ready to work on question 5. This is actually the easiest one, so this should be pretty quick. So go back to, well, open up the file that you've been working with all along and go back to the Data Spreadsheet tab. And scroll down to below all of this data. There's a section that looks like this in rows 66 through 76. This is what we're going to be filling in. So click on cell F67 here and type in equals COUNTIF, that's count if, parenthesis, F $3 colon F $57, comma, $D 67. Close parentheses, hit enter. So a number should appear in that cell, and that number should represent how many of the responses to question 5A in this column here were very good. That is, how many of them match what's here. So what you are asking Excel to do would be to count all of the cells from F3 through F57 that match what's in cell D67 here. That's the one that says the words very good. Now, go back to cell F67, click on that little square in the lower right corner and drag over to cell H67 and release, and that will copy over to those other 3 cells. And now click in cell H, well, make sure they're all still highlighted, but click the little square in the bottom of H67 and drag that down to the bottom row of this little table. So now it's all filled in. By the way, what the dollar signs do, when we copy something over like this, Excel normally makes an adjustment. So in this column where we were referring to F, when it got copied over into this next column, the F's got changed to G's. And in this column, they got changed to H's. But we didn't want the D to change. We wanted that to still refer to this cell over here. So the dollar sign in front of the D kept that from changing. And the dollar signs in front of the numbers kept those from changing when we copied things down. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and center these so that the numbers are all nicely centered in those cells. Now I'm going to fill in the percentages in the second table. So I'm going to click in cell F73 and type in equals F67 divided by, that's the slash, and then the number 55. Hit enter, and it should already be formatted the way we want, as a percent in the middle of the cell. If it isn't, you might have to center it yourself or change it to a percentage yourself, but it should already be that way. And then copy that across and down to fill in the rest of the table. Now, you want all of the numbers in each of these first 3 columns to add up to 55, which would make your percentages add up to 100%. To check whether they add up to 55 or not, you could just add them up manually or grab a calculator and add them up, or you can do that old trick that we've done before where you click in the cell below them and then click up here where it says Autosum and hit enter. And if your columns all add up to 55, then you're set. You're good to go. Everything looks the way it's supposed to. But if they don't, then we have some sort of a problem that we need to deal with. One thing that might be going on is that when you typed in your responses, you might have made a typo or a formatting error or something like that. If you misspelled something or you included an extra space, like if there are 2 spaces between the words very and good, you might have to fix that so that it gets counted correctly. So that's one thing that might be going on. The other thing that might be going on is that one of the responses, or more than one, somewhere in these 3 columns, might be something other than the 4 legal responses of very good, good, fair, or poor. For instance, as I scroll down here and look at these responses, I see down at the bottom of this column here, somebody gave a response that said pure evil. That was to the speed question. How would you rate the speed of the service in the restaurant? Pure evil? That wasn't one of the choices. So what are we going to do about that? Well, I'm going to kind of leave it up to you to decide what you want to do about that. But there are several choices. One thing you could do would be to just go in and change this to, well, change it to poor. If somebody said it was pure evil, they didn't like it, they thought it was pretty bad, and so that would correspond to a legitimate response of poor. So if you want to change pure evil to just poor, then it will be one of the permitted responses, it will be counted in that column, and we'll be good to go. So that's one thing you could do. Another thing you could do is think, okay, somebody just put that in as a joke. Maybe that's a joke response or something like that we don't really want to count. So we could just leave it as it is so that it won't get counted. And then your numbers just won't add up to 55 because you don't have 55 legitimate responses. You're just counting the ones that where people gave one of the responses that they were permitted to give. So if you decide to go with that approach, you don't really need to do anything more here. But later on, when we write the report and summarize our results, you're going to want to put in some sort of an explanation then why these don't add up to 55 and why the percents don't add up to 100%. Now, if you still don't want to count those weird responses, there was one of those here. There's also a couple other ones that I found. If you don't want to count them, but you still want your percents to add up to 100%, then you might want to go back and change these so that instead of dividing by 55, you're dividing by how many responses you actually had, in this case 54. So if I change this to a 54, F67 divided by 54, and then change all the others in this column to 54, then my percents at least should add up to 100%. So that's something you could do. Or if you decide you do want to count the people who said pure evil and you want to make that one of the possible responses, we could add that in. We could include another row of the table. So I can go up here to insert. And you know what? Actually, what I want is on the home table. So under home, over here where it says insert, click on insert sheet rows. And I'm just going to select this whole row and copy the whole thing down, but then change this to the words pure evil. So now we got another row of the table where we are counting the responses that actually did say pure evil. And now if I total these, now they do add up to 55. And if I'm doing that, I also want to add another row to my percentage table. So again, I'll click down here. I will insert sheet rows. I will highlight the bottom row and just copy it down. So that copies down all the formatting and everything. And then I will change this bottom where it says poor for the second time. I will type in the words pure evil so that that gets counted. So like I said, if these already added up to 55, you don't have to worry about any of this. And if they don't, it's kind of up to you how you're going to handle this, how you're going to deal with the responses that don't match the 4 legal permitted responses. But whatever you do, you may have to say something about it, explain it when you write your summary of this question in your final report. So once you've got all this done, save your spreadsheet and then go into Canvas and submit it, just like you've done for the other questions.